Welcome to another episode of the Skidoo Lounge. With me today is Jmac. It's actually a redo episode. We actually had done one prior, but had an issue with fucking getting it up. So we're gonna bring you back in and I guess alter the story a little bit. So what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm doing fucking fantastic. Real quick though, how'd you guys do today in the match?
Did not go as planned. We got 5-0'd, but at the end of the day, 101A is a very good team, and we're still trying to perfect our skill set for competitive as a clan. They played
They're
really
well
well. They
established.
played really aggressive, and we just couldn't beat them. We got 5-0'd, but every loss you learn a lot from. We learned a lot from it. I got a whole list of bulletin points that I'm going to bring up at our strategy meeting, and hopefully we'll do better next time.
That's what I like to hear. All right, enough about that until later. So why don't
Right
you go ahead and
on.
tell the people a little bit about yourself and who is Jmac, where you from, etc.
All right. Well, my real name is James. I am 24 years old. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, born and raised. Um, yeah, I do construction for a living. I have 2.5 years sober. I'm a Christian, and I like to play video games, and I'm also a gym head. Yeah, that's
So
about.
we'll go ahead and touch it. Like you said, you like your bulletin, so I'll go ahead and give you some bulletins. So, you said 2 years sober, man. What's that all? How's that journey been? What started that journey, and how is the journey going currently?
Um, it started about 4 years ago. It took me 2 years to figure out how to get an actual 4 months sober.
Yeah,
But after that, I've been rock solid since. I grew up in Wisconsin. Those of you who are familiar with Wisconsin know that alcoholism and
bathrooms.
Wisconsin go hand in hand. I'm pretty sure we have like a majority of the top 25 drunkest cities in the United States within
Is
our
that
one
so?
state. But I grew up, my dad was a bad alcoholic, my uncle was a bad alcoholic, my mom was like really the only normal one that I was related to. So, it was part of the culture. I remember I was 10 years old, first time I took a drink. Me and my brother, little backstory on that, because he'll probably come into the story again. Me and my brother aren't related at all. He's just a childhood best friend. My dad wasn't around for a lot of my childhood, so my brother's dad was like my main father figure, and we just hung out all the time. Like I had a bedroom at their house through
Yeah,
most of
right,
my
right.
childhood.
Hmm.
But I was like 10 years old, and we were having a sleepover, and I thought it would be a brilliant idea. Like, when you're little, like you see the bottle of alcohol in the fridge, and you're like, yeah, adults drink that, but I can't. Like, that was the first time that thought was like, well, why the hell not? So I remember I grabbed 2 root beers and I like poured them out for us, and I put a little bit of rum shot in both of them, and I gave it to him. I'm like, "What do you think?" He's like, "It's good. What is it?" And I'm like, "It's just root beer." He's like, "And what else?" Because he's not stupid. And I'm like, "Oh, I put alcohol in it." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can we have more?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, we can have more." We ended up finishing the bottle and throwing it in the garbage before my mom woke up, got drunk off our asses at 10, and we were puking for like the next 2 days. And then, that was like a one-time thing for a while until I was like 12. I started smoking weed in middle school and getting into trouble. And, I was never really like a clean cut, follow the rules type of kid. Like I just grew up a rebel. I was a hardhead. Like, you tell me this is something you shouldn't do. Okay, well, I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to see how many times I can get away with it. And then once I get punished for it, I'm going to find a way around that punishment and do it again. So I feel like that had a big part of it. And like one thing I've realized in my sobriety is like that, like, I felt the need to stand out because I felt like me on my own, like me as myself, wasn't enough. Like I had to do something to be different. And like once I found drugs and alcohol, like that finally made me feel normal. Like that was, and I guarantee you ask any addict, alcoholic, anybody who's been down this road, they will tell you that same thing, that there's just a little bit of a void of something that's not there. And then when you take that first drink or smoke that first joint or whatever, it's all smooth sailing from there until it's not, because you find that piece of you that's missing in that. You're like, oh, I feel normal. This is what normal people are like. I can have conversations with people. I can talk to girls. I can do all this stuff. And I ran with it. And, I ended up experimenting in high school. And, because a lot of people, they'll smoke weed and be like, oh, yeah, this is cool. But, like, I'm not touching coke or heroin or anything like that. That's crazy. Not I. I tried weed and I'm like, yeah, I want to try all the drugs. I want to see what all of these do to you. And I'd say about halfway through high school, I ended up getting hooked on opiates pretty bad. And that carried on for a while. I went to a few youth rehabs. Then after I graduated, I started getting into legal trouble, which wasn't anything new, but then it was starting to become on my permanent record. And then the legal trouble never kept me away from it. All the other consequences, my family being disappointed. I mean, none of that ever kept me away from it. But about 2 years and 6 months ago, I used opiates and any mind altering substance for the last time. I took way too much. I didn't feel like I was that high. I made the conscious decision to put myself to sleep. I woke up the next day. It was 1 in the afternoon. I had completely missed my day at work. I could barely hear anything. Everything sounded like it was underwater. My left leg was completely numb. I could barely walk on it. My right arm was completely numb. My shoulder on my right side is still numb from nerve damage from it, but I ended up overdosing in my sleep. And I had an anoxic brain injury that, I feel like just in this last year I've started to fully recover from. Well, I mean, as much as I can. But after that, that was the final wake up call of like, dude, if you don't stop doing this, you're going to die. I guarantee it. You're going to die if you don't stop. I just kind of had a come to Jesus moment. I was staying at a sober living at the time, and they kicked me out. And I ended up moving into an Oxford house, getting back involved in AA. I got a new sponsor. He's still my sponsor to this day. And, I really, really put my all into the 12 steps then. And I'd done them 2-3 times before, but I'd kind of half-assed them. My heart wasn't really in it. I didn't really know for sure if I wanted to quit forever or not. I knew I had to quit in the moment, but like I couldn't wrap my head around sobriety forever. And after that, that was the deciding factor of this has to be done. And so sorry about that.
There you go, buddy.
So I dove headfirst into the 12 steps. I put my heart and soul into it. And, there's a lot of talk about higher power in the 12 steps. And, I'd always kind of tiptoed around that. Like, yeah, I believe in a higher power, but I don't really know what it is. And, I grew up going to church and everything. So I didn't really like the idea of a Christian God. But they have a thing called the spiritual experience in AA, where it's not while you're using. I mean, it might be, but for me, it was after I was done using. I remember I was at a meeting and it was my turn to share. And I said something. And what I said, like, there's no way that what just came out of my mouth was my thinking. Like, it didn't even sound like something that I would think of. And I'm like, hold up. Maybe God does work through people. And then, like, that stuck with me for a long time. And then I started to dig into it a little bit more, started praying, putting a little bit more faith into my prayers that, something might be listening. And, the days just kept going by. I kept staying sober, worked through all 12 steps, made all my amends, started sponsoring guys. And that's when the magic happened for me, that I really, found long-term sobrieties once I started helping other people. Because AA is it's not a selfish program. Like, everybody thinks you're going to go to AA and like just look out for yourself and like you're going to fix your drinking and then you're done. But like, for people that really get into it, it's a lifestyle. And, you know, out of the 12 steps, after you're in the maintenance phase of your sobriety, you live in steps 10 through 12. And I'm not always good at it, but I try to live in 10 through 12 every day. And that's, taking daily inventory when I'm being an asshole, when I'm mouthing off at work, when I start arguments with people, when I'm being a shitty boyfriend, when I'm not doing stuff. You take inventory and be like, okay, this is where I fucked up today. That's what I'm going to do better on tomorrow. And then step 12 is the most important. That is where you start helping other people get through the 12 steps. You take on sponsees. And, I have 2 sponsees that have over a year sober now. And that's honestly, it's not even something that I did. I just showed them the blueprint to how to do it. But like, I take a lot of pride in them. And, I look at them and how they're doing. And I'm like, yeah, I got to say that I was around when they were at day 3 or 1 week sober when I started helping them. And now look at them go.
Right.
Step 11 that I forgot to touch on is mindfulness and meditation. So, a big reflection that I've found on step 11 is, how has my understanding of a higher power changed since the beginning of my step program? Do I have a spiritual path? And what is the difference between a spiritual path and a religious one? So, there's religious people. Me and Lazarus actually had a conversation about this a few weeks ago about the difference between spirituality and religion.
Yeah.
Christians that go to church, that read their Bibles, stuff like that, like they're religious, but I see religion and spirituality as 2 very different things.
They are.
Spirituality, you don't have to follow a certain sect of religion. Like, you don't have to be a Muslim, or you don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or whatever. You can just believe in a power greater than yourself and allow that to guide you. As for religion, has a blueprint of like, this is how you should live your life. This is what you should
Right.
follow. So I
Right.
tend to lean more towards the spirituality side of things more than I do the religion side of things. And that's how, this step 11 has really changed my life. And, that was kind of a rhetorical question I asked about how has my understanding of my higher power changed since the beginning of my step program. At first,
Right.
I was praying like, God, if you get me through this without letting me get fucked up, I won't miss a meeting for 90 days straight. Like foxhole prayers. Like, if you get me out of
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what
And
you mean.
nowadays, I pray every morning when I first wake up, and my prayers sound something like, God, allow me to see the world through your eyes today more so than mine. Allow me to be
Interesting.
useful to others. Where I'm feeling selfish, allow me to be selfless. Where I'm feeling angry, allow me to feel peaceful. Where I feel resentful,
Yeah.
allow me to be forgiving. Stuff like that. It's not so much like, God, I want $1 million today, or God, if you keep me sober today, I'll do this. It's more, praying for insight. And, I'll also pray for other people, because I
Yeah.
don't get along with. I'm not always a super easy person to get along with, especially not at work. And like, if I'm working with some guy that's just a jackass all the time, I'll pray for him throughout the day. Be like, help them find whatever peace that they're looking for in their life. Help them, be happy.
Hell yeah.
And, that little prayer resets that. It's a mindset that I try to keep. Like, the best way I can explain it is bless them, help me. Because where I'm getting pissed off about something or whatever, usually I'd say 95% of the time I've played some part in why I'm angry at this person. So, the 12 steps is a platform, not so much to quit drinking or quit getting high, but it's more so a platform, a blueprint to fix what's wrong with you so you don't even feel the need to get fucked up in the first place. And I swear by it. The 12 steps have changed my life.
Well, that's all
And
that matters, bro. As long as it, helps you and your peoples, that's,
yeah,
and
and
continues to help people. Shit.
and I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, and they were talking to a guy on the podcast who had like 10 years sober, and he's like a ultra endurance athlete now and stuff like that. And They were asking him how his view on sobriety has changed in the past few years as opposed to when he first joined. He said something that I can really agree with. Is he said that, I don't really judge how people get sober. Like if people get sober through church, or if people get sober through, whatever, as long as they're doing something and they're not ruining their life, that's good enough. And at first, I'm like, oh, well, they're not working the 12 steps. Are they really going to stay sober? Like, yeah, come talk to me in 3 years, we'll see how that's going. And like now, I just, it's not my life, so who am I to judge them? And, that's a view that's definitely changed with more maturity in my sobriety. Is like, if you used to have a problem and it used to be ruining your life and now it's not, and whatever you're doing is working, that's awesome. I have friends that used to be heroin addicts and they still smoke weed once in a while. I have friends that, used to drink themselves to sleep every night, and now they just go for hikes and go fishing and whatever. Whatever it is that works for you, that gets you out of that lifestyle and saves your life and keeps you from ruining your life, is awesome. To come back from something like addiction to the depths that I have gone to is easily the hardest thing I've ever done, and will probably forever be the hardest thing I've ever done. So whatever that path looks like for other people, so be it. Everybody's journey looks different, and that's something that I've definitely gained with my maturity, my sobriety, is my ability to realize that.
So you said you also do construction. You want to talk a little bit about what you do in construction?
Yeah, so I'm a union carpenter. So I do a lot of commercial concrete form work. I typically do vertical work. So in concrete, you got flat work and you got vertical work. So your flat work is, your driveways, your sidewalks, and stuff like that. Well, to sum it up, like right now, we're doing a parking ramp out in Verona, Wisconsin for Epic. Epic is a medical database company, and the owner of it, I want to say she's like the second richest woman in the world or in America or something, but she's rich, dude. She's got all these crazy buildings out there. Like this parking ramp's like a 2,500 car parking garage. It's like the size of an NFL stadium. It's ridiculous. So
Damn.
I'm on the deck crew. So we build all these towers and then we run beams across it as if you're like building a floor for your house. And then we sheet it with form board plywood. And then they come pour it. We just watch the pour, make sure shit doesn't go south. And then after that, we come strip it. But there's also like 60-foot tall concrete walls on this building. There's columns. There's crash walls. There's all sorts of different concrete crews on this job. Typically, I'm a walls guy, so I do mostly foundation walls for high-rise buildings. So they're typically like 2 feet wide by anywhere from 15 to 30 feet tall. They just happen to be 70 feet tall on this building because this building is ridiculously large. But yeah, it's like playing with Legos on a big scale.
So
I just
is the Wisconsin unions also mobbed up?
no. Um, It'd
I'm
probably
just
make
kidding.
more money if we were, but
Yeah, it was just a
uh,
um. Do you plan on staying unionized? Like, what made you want to go union? Like, I know a lot of construction guys, they end up going their own route, or they hop on like a they don't go union is basically what I'll get at.
so when I first got sober at the sober living that I got kicked out of, I one of the guys that was close with a lot of the guys that ran that place had a crew building houses, and I started working for him, just to get on my feet. I did that for about a year and a half, a year, and um, I really liked it. I liked starting where there was just a basement and there was nothing, and then 2 weeks to 30 days later, you're walking away and there's a fully framed house that's 7,000 square feet with like 5 bedrooms, and like you can drive past that and like show your kids someday, like, yeah, you see that, I built that house. But at the end of the day, I was working 40, 50 hours, sometimes 60 hours a week, and I was only making $18 an hour. And, you know, I, uh, I was on some commercial job sites. At my job before that, I was doing epoxy floors, and I'd talked to some of the carpenters doing that, and they're making like, high 30s, mid 40s an hour. So, I decided that, $18 an hour for the rest of my life really isn't a great plan. I don't really see a future for
Fuck
myself at
nowadays.
this company. So I started looking at other trades to get into. I looked at plumbing. Plumbers make a lot of money. Electricians make a lot of money, but I didn't want to be an electrician. And it came down to either plumbing or carpentry. And at the end of the day, I just thought about which job I would enjoy more. And carpenters do a lot of what I refer to as big dog shit. We got a bunch of tools on. We're climbing 30-foot tall walls, throwing up these huge buildings in a year. And, plumbers, while they do make good money, you're just fucking with pipes and stuff all day. You can't drive past a place and be like, yeah, I built that from the ground up. So I decided to go with carpentry. I figured I'd enjoy it more, which I definitely do in hindsight. I'm glad I picked this because of the skill set that I've gained from it. And that's another benefit to me joining the union is I went through the apprenticeship program. I'm about a year from completing it. Um, but in the apprenticeship program, I go to school 4 or 5 times a year, typically in the winter when we're slow. And each class is based on some skill set that you're supposed to have to be a well-versed carpenter. Like my last class was how to do roof framing, like calculating the numbers for angles of rafters for roofs and stuff like that. I've learned how to do steel studs and drywall, how to grade out a foundation, how to shoot your level, get your benchmark for your elevation on concrete, and then form that up. They teach you all this stuff in these classes, and they're only week-long classes, but in that week, I've come to realize, at the end of the week, you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to remember any of that in a few months. And then, like, 6 months down the road, you're on a job site and, someone whips out some stuff and they're like, hey, you know how to do this? And you're like, actually, yeah, I remember how to do that. I learned that in school, a year or two ago or whatever. So, that apprenticeship program has definitely grown my skill set as a carpenter. Um, I'm not done with it yet, but when I'm done with it and I get vested in my pension, because you have to become a journeyman, which it's a 4-year apprenticeship. So once you graduate your apprenticeship, you have to do 1 year as a journeyman, and then you get vested in all of your benefits. And then once you get that journeyman card's good anywhere in the United States for the rest of your life. You can go to any local union and get a job if they have work. But to get vested means, that pension that I've been working for the past 4 years, I get to keep it. Um, I get a percentage of that after I finally do retire and I want to cash out on that. And I'm not really sure what the health, dental, and life insurance benefits look like once you're vested, but I do know you still get some of that after you're vested. But yeah, I mean, that's what got me into the union is I just wanted to make more money, but I wanted to stay in the
Do
trade that
you
I
plan
was
on
in.
staying in the union for your entire work life or what?
Um, I've thought about it, but actually a few weeks ago, I was talking to my boss that I used to frame houses for, and I was just talking to him about, how his life is going, and he's telling me, he's like, dude, it's awesome. He's like, dude, I made $42,000 last month. I just went and bought a Scat Pack Challenger in cash off the dealership lot a few weeks ago. He's like, this thing's fucking awesome. He's like, I just got done building my house last year. My business is up and running. I just added another crew to my business, and now I'm going to be starting another business as a general contractor. And I'm like, damn, maybe I should get into that. And he's like, you absolutely should. He's like, you'd be stupid not to. You have the skills to either run a framing crew, start your own company framing, or go do whatever it is you want to do. You should. He's like, you can get a business loan, do all this, get business insurance. You'd probably have to get a CDL if you want to do concrete. But, after that, you can just run with it. And I'm like, yeah, if I want to start my own business, I do house foundations. little did I know until I talked to him about it, there's not that many foundation contractors around where I live for residential construction. So I
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. But like I'm genuinely not sure because Dane County, the county that I live in, is one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. Um, we got the University of Wisconsin here, there's Epic here. There's plenty of jobs. It's never going to stop growing. Like downtown, if you look at downtown Madison 10 years ago compared to what it looks like now, it's completely different. Everything's going from, being small 2, 3 story buildings to we're throwing up 14, 15, 16 story buildings, every few months downtown. We're completely redoing it. It's growing. Verona, where I'm working right now for Epic, Verona has tripled in size in the last 30 years because of that Epic company alone. Um, and a lot of people are building houses around here, so I'm not really sure why more people haven't gotten into doing foundations. Maybe it's because it costs a lot of money to get started. Maybe it's because, companies they just have the people that they work with and they're not really looking to start with another contractor. I don't really know what it is, but that's my game plan. So I talked to him, decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I talked to him again a few days ago. I said, hey, you know, this is what I'm going to do. How do I go about this? And he told me, he's like, you're going to go to your bank, you're going to take out a business loan for $30,000, go get a boom truck. But before you do that, go get a truck, go get a trailer, and go get your CDL. That way, when you get a boom truck for your panels, you have the CDL, you have a truck to go get your trailer with all your tools and stuff in it. Boom, you're good to go. Everything you don't have, you can rent. So I got 2 more years before I'm vested. I got a year before I'm a journeyman, another year before I'm vested. After that, I'm going to be starting my own foundation company. I'm going to get my LLC up and running. Um, and I'm just going to run with it. Once I go into this, I'm not going to half-ass it. It's not going to be a weekend gig. When I go into it, I'm diving in head first. I'm putting my all into this. This is my all or nothing. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'm leaving with nothing left. Um,
So you'd say that that's your 5 to 10 year plan is new company. Do you plan on like moving to a new location, or you like you said it's the fastest growing, so you just plan on home basing in Dade County till the cows come home, essentially? Or
I plan on starting it here just because I know I'm familiar with general contractors around here. A good friend of mine owns Kismet Construction in Madison, and I was talking to him a few months ago, and he was saying that like if he could just get foundations down, that he would be killing it as a contractor. So if I get this up and running, I know that he would go through me for his foundations. Charlie, my framing boss with his new general contractor company, he would hire me on because these are also guys that are part of my sober community. We all look out for each other. So,
yeah.
when I get this up and going, boom, there's 2 general contractors that might need 2 foundations immediately. A foundation only takes maybe 2 weeks to do at most, I'd say. And but
So
the thing
when
is
building, so when building subdivisions and stuff like that, uh, basically you'd be the first person to come through and do all the houses.
yeah. So,
Uh,
there's a few different steps involved in it that I don't have the means to do myself. Like, you got to hire an excavator to come in and dig all your stuff out. And then after that, I'd come in, lay my footings, get all my walls built, pour them, strip all of it, get out of there, make profit, and then on to the next. So I'd be, running circles around these framing crews doing these foundations, which would also give me time to sit around and, work on focusing on like what are the next steps I need to take for the business because I'm not going to be slammed for work all the time. At least this is what I'm picturing it to be like. Obviously, I'm not there yet, but when I am there, um, once they start doing a subdivision, I'll come in and I'll do like 3, 4, 5, however many foundations there in a row. And then after that, it'll probably slow down for a little bit until, another subdivision pops up. Then I'll be over there doing that. And then, have a little bit of time to
how much do
regroup
you
in
make?
between these jobs.
How, how much do you make per job?
I'm not 100% sure of it yet.
I mean, like, sorry, I shouldn't have asked that, but like, rough estimate, how much do you make per job?
Well,
How
a
much
lot of
would you make?
my
Oh, right, good job.
a lot of my coworkers do a lot of concrete on the side, whether it's a driveway or a sidewalk or a front porch or whatever. And typically what they do is they take the price of concrete and times it by 2 for labor. So let's say it's
That's not
a
bad. That's pretty cheap,
200
actually.
yard foundation and the price of
That's pretty cheap.
concrete is $147. That's $29,400 in just concrete. And then you take that times 2. That's, I'd bid that job at $58,800. I'd make $29,400 of that off of that. But that's also
Beautiful.
not including paying my employees, paying off the loans that I'm going to have to start to get this business and stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of things, the cost that it's going to be to get this started is going to be relatively cheap compared to the amount of profit that I'd be making. And when I talked to him and I said foundations is going to be my thing, he said, I'm making 30, 40 a month. You could easily clear $60,000 to $80,000 a month off of foundations alone. In
Damn,
residential
son.
construction, in residential construction, concrete's the way to go if you really want to make money and make it fast. So that's the plan.
Is there anything else like hobby wise that you do that also involves like construction and shit? Like, do you have any other like projects that you do on the side?
Um, I mean, not necessarily. Like, my dad just bought a house a few years ago, and, he's had a bunch of little odd jobs for me. Like, he wants me to come trim a room or remodel his bathroom, and I'll just come do it for free because I like doing it. But,
Obviously, it's your dad too. Like, what the
I,
fuck?
uh, if I need something built like a nightstand or a desk or something like that, I would rather do it myself just because I enjoy doing the woodworking part of it rather than
What
going
type
to
of wood would you
Walmart and
use?
buying one. For a desk, I'd probably use like plywood and 4 bys for the legs. Um, but I
What's your
keep
favorite type of wood?
black walnut.
Why?
It's beautiful. I mean, it's like naturally super dark brown. It's really impractical for building anything structural because it's so heavy. But for like fine little woodworking jobs around the house for furniture and stuff like that, black walnut's beautiful. I love it.
Where does it grow at?
It grows around here. I'd say I know it's around North America. I know there's black walnut trees around here. They're not like super common, I don't think, but they're not rare. Um,
Hmm, interesting. I've never heard of it, so I was just curious. I'm also not like a big tree nut, unless it's marijuana, obviously. Uh,
but yeah, that's the game plan is, in 2 years, I want to have this business fully up and running and then eventually have my own office and eventually work myself into a position where I don't even have to be out in the field. I'm just going to be in the office, setting up jobs, doing bids, and my guys that show up for a paycheck show up and do the work.
right. Now, do you plan on like when you hire these people, are they going to be already certified people, or are you going to train them in your ways of doing things?
Um, so I got a few friends that I've already talked to. Like once I decided that this is what I'm going to do, like friends I've been friends with for a long time that do the same thing that I do for work. I've told them like, hey, I'm going to start this company. Um, like this is a for sure thing that's going to happen in a few years. You got a few years to decide, but once it gets going, would you want to come help me? And I got 2 people that are on board. One of my friends already has his CDL. He's done residential form work, and he's very comfortable running a boom truck. So he's going to be my boom truck guy. He's getting out of the military in a year, I want to say, because he was doing foundations when we were in high school for his dad in the summer and stuff. Um, but so he's probably going to be on the team. But like if I hire on some kid from Craigslist or something like that, I'll walk him through the ropes and be like, hey, this is how I would do this. just teach them everything that I know, basically.
Now, do you plan on oops, excuse me, sorry, had a like a test thing there. Do you plan on basically partnering with different sober living homes, as in like a work program for these people, or
Oh, absolutely. Like, if I'm looking for employees and you got, let's say, 6 months sober and 3 felonies, I'm taking you 100 times before I would take the guy that dropped out of college because he couldn't pay it and got into construction because he didn't know anything else to do. Like, if you got
gotcha?
felonies and you're sober, that's the thing about sober people. Is like, if you are sober and like part of a sober community, most addicts that I've met in AA, at church, wherever, 10 out of 10 people when they're sober, they're super selfless or hard workers and they're dedicated to what they do. Same thing with ex-convicts. People that have been to prison, been to jail, like me, that get out and they turn their lives around. Those are some of the most dependable, hardworking people. So
So how do
absolutely,
you
and
real quick?
I'm all
I'm
for
sorry. Go
second
ahead.
chance. Sorry,
Yeah, second chance.
I'm
No,
all
that's not your
for
fault at all.
second
Go ahead. Sorry.
chances. If you're just getting out of prison and you're looking for a job, I'm more than willing to give someone a shot. Because someone did that for me. So who am I to be like, you just got out of prison for this and that. I don't think I'm going to hire you. Someone did it for
So
me. So if I can do that for others, that would really make me feel good.
right, and I get that 100%. How does one basically? I don't want to say judge, bro, because I already know you're gonna bust my balls about saying that.
No, you're good.
Um, how does one depict or read or whatever the fuck how a convict or something like that is actually gonna, like how do you know which one of trust to put on your job site that's not gonna like take all your fucking tools or all your equipment or shit like that?
That's actually a really good question. You
Because
gotta
like I know I've seen where like exactly what you're saying. Like I know people that have gone through the ringer, came out the ringer, got their shit together, and became some fucking stand up motherfucking citizens. I also know some fucking people that have had chance after chance after chance after chance after chance, and every single one of these chances involved fucking the people over that were helping them out. So it's like how do you when you get to that point, how do you think you're going to be able to handle that kind of, or not even handle, bro? I don't even know the word I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? How are you going to be able to find the rat or the snakes in the grass?
proceed with caution. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I've lived in sober livings for a while. You get to know people.
Yeah, not
And
so
if
much the
and if they're
sober living. I
fucking up
think
and
you've
they're up
got
to
more.
bullshit, you'll figure it out eventually. But just extending that invitation of like, hey, I'll give you a job, I'll pay you good money. And if they want to take advantage of that, you're fired. But if you're gonna actually show up and, bust your ass and help me, I will reward you for that. I want to see my people win. So if I'm running a company and I got 5 guys working for me and they show up every day and they kick ass, I want to see them win too. So I'm going to pay them what they deserve to be paid. I'm not going to pay them no $18 an hour. You're going to be making, let's say you figure out what you're doing and I can walk away from a job site and trust you to know what you're doing without me being there. You're going to be making 50, $55 an hour. You're not going to
Damn, you
be
hear that,
making
people?
30, 40. If you can run
You
a
hear
job
that shit,
site
people?
without me being there, I want you to be able to live comfortably and not have to worry if you're going to be able to pay rent and get groceries and take care of your kids. I want you to be able to do all three and then still be able to put some in the bank. And that's a big issue with a lot of people nowadays is all these corporations are greedy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They'll let their guys scrape by with basically nothing while they're just climbing. They can stand on top of their money and be 10 feet tall showing up in new trucks and shit while their guys are duct taping their boots together. Fuck that. If I'm eating, you're eating. As long as you're helping me, I'm going to help you. Because, like I said, I've been given chances and people have looked out for me. And, I've had people help me like that. So I want to extend that favor to people that, do the same stuff for me.
I feel that. So besides helping people, besides finding yourself with your spirituality, and all that. What are some other the hobbies stuff that you do for fun stuff? You got any interests outside of you know?
Yeah, I got a few. So, one fun fact that doesn't really need any talking about. Any guys that have played with me in the 508 know that I have aquariums. I like to keep fish because you can always hear my aquarium in the background.
Hell yeah! What kind of fish, bro? What kind of fish?
So I got African cichlids in one tank, and then I got a tank with more peaceful fish right next to it. So I got some like platies and a rainbow shark and some guppies and stuff in that one. But them cichlids are bad motherfuckers, dude. They beat the shit out
So
of each other in there.
I gotta ask: is it like Doctor Evil aquariums, or is it like Rob Schneider from Bigelow aquarium type deal?
I don't really know.
Oh, you've never seen those movies, bro? Come on, those are classics.
I've seen Doctor Strange, but
No, Doctor Evil, man. You ain't never seen Austin Powers?
hold on.
Oh my God.
I gotta
So,
Google
dude,
this
look, check
quick.
this check this out, bro. You need to watch Austin Powers, all of them, and then you need to watch motherfucking Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, and European Gigolo. That needs to be your homework for the next time I bring you on this motherfucker, bro. I cannot
Okay.
believe you ain't seen those.
Okay, I get what you're saying now. The cichlid tank is definitely a Doctor Evil tank. But
That's crazy.
the peaceful tank is more of the other one that you were talking about. The peaceful tank's got like a bunch of bright colors and stuff in it, and they're all chilling in there. And then the cichlids, they're all fighting for power in my one tank. There's typically, they're
Fighting for power. You've got fish fights going on at your
yeah,
house.
dude. So they're schooling fish, but like the best I can
Go make a
describe
fish.
it is like cichlids are kind of like a pack of wolves. Like there's an alpha, and fish can display their colors either brighter or darker depending on how they're feeling. And typically there's just so the ones that I have are purple and yellow, but typically they're kind of
Interesting.
like grayish green with a little hint of purple and yellow, and then there's just one of them in there that's like super vibrant. And the one that's really displaying colors is the one that's feeling dominant. He's like, yeah, I'm the boss around this motherfucker. And then every now and then I'll come
Mhm.
home from work and I'll go to feed them, and there's like two or three of them that are all colored up, and I'm like, oh god, one of them's gonna get their ass beat. Um,
Oh shit, they all be ganging up on each other?
yeah. So like, you know how like wolves compete for like alpha of the pack, like these fucking fish,
Yeah, yeah,
dude.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. But
they do that shit too. I mean, it's cool. They're like
on
they're
some daily shit too, bro. That's insane.
they're super cool to watch, but like the thing about cichlids is like you can't put other fish in the tank with them. Like if you got cichlids, it's got to be just cichlids, or they'll fuck up whatever else you put in there.
Damn.
But so that's like a passive hobby of mine. I just like watching them. But the
What's
biggest
your favorite fish of all time?
it's got to be the cichlids, dude. They're cool. They look like
That's your favorite fish of all time?
yeah, they look like bass, but they're like super colorful.
If you could have one fish in the entire world, what would it be? I swear to God, if you
Oh,
say cichlids, I'm done.
if I
I'm
could
just
have
kidding.
one fish in the entire world, I would have a lionfish.
Where's it come from?
Um, I can answer that. Give me 1 second. I gotta do some research.
Take your
I know it's
time.
a saltwater fish.
Because I'll be honest, I don't know much about fish. Like I said, the only knowledge I have on fish is like the different aquariums I see in movies and shit. And I will say this much. At the local, it's not the Piggly Wiggly, but like a local Meijer or whatever, they do still got the fishies. You fuck with the fishies at the grocery store.
Hell
It's always a
yeah.
good time.
So a lionfish is native to the Caribbean.
Oh shit. Okay, okay, okay.
They're the like bright striped, like orange and white ones with all the little spikes coming out of them. They look like little sea porcupines. Them
Okay,
motherfuckers are
okay. Yeah,
cool.
I know what you're talking about. I pulled it up on my Google when we started talking about it.
Yeah, but that's
That's a
like
beautiful fish, bro.
that's like a passive hobby of mine. Like, it doesn't really take a whole lot of work. Once in a while I got to do a water change, and I got to feed them twice a week, but besides that they just hang out. They're in their own world in there.
Have you
But
named
this
them?
no, I haven't.
You've
I
never named these fish.
When I first got into it, I named all of them, but then again, a lot of the fish I have are schooling, and a lot of them look similar. So, it's hard to remember who's who. But I got two Cory catfish in my peaceful tank. Those are OGs. They've been around since I first started keeping aquariums like 2 years ago. And their names are Bill
Damn, so they've seen
W.
the whole transition.
Yeah, their names are Bill W. and Dr. Bob. They've been through like 5 different tank changes now, and now they're in a
Where
90
did those
gallon.
names come from?
This is going to kill you. Bill
Hope it
W. and
does.
Dr. Bob are the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know why. I just thought it was hilarious.
Oh,
Like
that's awesome.
when
Hell
I
yeah.
get a
I'm
when
sorry
I
that
get
I
a
didn't know
pet,
that.
like when I got my cat, like me and my girlfriend got my cat, and I'm like, well, she's like, what do you want to name it? And I'm like, Beans. And she's like, why? I'm like, I don't fucking know. She's just Beans. Like it's the first thing that pops into my head. I got a Placostomus in my peaceful tank too. His name's Andrew, and I got another Placostomus in my cichlid tank, and his name's George. Besides that, they don't have names.
Okay, fair enough. Nameless fish, I can dig it.
Yeah, but the big hobby of mine that I like put a lot of time and effort into, that's also a lifestyle, is I'm really big into the gym, big into fitness, strength training, bodybuilding. I'm
I'm sure you
actually,
and Juice are good friends in the server.
what's that?
You and Juice talk a lot. Is Juice still in the 508?
Yeah, Juice is still here. I
I
haven't
was
really
gonna
had
say,
the
I'm sure you
chance to
guys
get
talk
to
a lot.
know Juice that well yet. He was around when I first joined, but
Hmm.
then I feel like he's on at different hours than me. But
Oh yeah, he's a huge fitness nut. I think if you look in that group thing or whatever, he's got a fitness thing. I don't know, you should get at him though, if that's
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Uh,
he's a personal trainer for work. I know that.
yeah, yeah.
Harmless, who is another NCO and Easy Squad, he's actually a competitive bodybuilder, and me and him will talk about
Oh shit.
workouts and diet and stuff like that all the time. Lazarus is a power lifter, but I'm not really big into powerlifting. I'd rather look huge and be able to bench a plate than be able to bench 900 pounds and not look awesome naked. Um,
Not so naked, I feel that.
but
That's
like the
funny.
whole reason I got into it is like, my whole life I was super skinny because like I got ADHD like a motherfucker.
Okay.
And I was one of them cases where I'm like 8 years old and I can't sit still in class. And they're like, we don't know what to do with him. Give him Adderall. So I was
Mhm.
just skinny as fuck like my whole life because I was on Adderall up until I was like 20. And
That's fine.
once I started getting fucked up, like typically you'd think like junkies all get skinny, right? Not me. I got fat as fuck when I was on drugs. Like
Interesting.
I was like 250 with no muscle mass, just walking around chunky as hell. And I got sober, like I'm trying to meet girls, take some
Right, I'm trying
shorties
to,
out on
yeah,
dates and stuff, and I'm like, dude, I look
yeah.
like shit. So I
Trying to
started
get
going
that
back to the
kitty.
gym, and me and the gym have always had a good relationship. It's just when I'm getting fucked up, I'd rather be fucked up than working out.
Oh,
um
100%.
but I actually, before I got sober, before really anything, when I was 14, I got into martial arts, and I mean I wrestled all through school. Um, but around 14, I got into Muay Thai. And then from Muay Thai, I stemmed into Jiu-Jitsu and so on and so forth. And I started, fighting competitively. And then once I started getting fucked up, that all went out the window. But I fought
Hmm.
from ages 15 to 19 for the most part. Um, but then this like second time around when I got back into fitness, I was just like, I just want to lift weights. I don't really want to go get punched in the face anymore. Um,
Right, right. That ain't no
So
good.
I got back into it for a little while, and just being around it made me want to get back in the ring, and I was trying to get ready for a fight. I was gonna fight in the TBA Muay Thai tournament in Des Moines um, before I overdosed, and then when I overdosed and had that brain injury, like I'm like I can't give myself any more brain damage. I've already had plenty of concussions, and now I got severe brain damage. Well, not severe, but I got a decent amount of brain damage. I don't want to fuck with that anymore. So I went and got a gym membership with one of my buddies, and started working out with him. I started working out on my own, and then that was like a really mainstream commercial gym, and I just wasn't really feeling the vibe there. It was like a lot of like early adulthood guys or like high school guys, with like the fucking broccoli head haircuts that would just like come in and hog the bench
Yeah,
rack
bro.
and be on their phone and like they're taking selfies. And I'm like, nah, bro, this is douchebag shit. I want to be around like a real gym. And my
Yeah,
sponsor in AA, he's 54. He's a badass dude. He's 54 and he's winning bodybuilding competitions. Like he got down to like 3 point something body fat percentage in last April
damn.
to win a bodybuilding show. Like he's an animal. His discipline is insane. Um, he works out at this gym called Ford's Gym. Shout out Ford's Gym. Anybody that's listening that's in Madison and you work out, go check out Ford's. Um, and I show up there and I'm like, this, like, all the equipment here is old and shitty, but like I like it. It's like in Rocky 2, when he's training with all the old like beat up dumbbells and there's the boxing ring in the corner and it's like just this old beat up building and he's just going to town in there. Like that's what my gym reminds me of. And like, there's not everything like brand new and top of the line, but the people that work out there are serious. Like most competitive bodybuilders from Madison, most competitive power lifters work out at Ford's. My coach is a competitive bodybuilder, and Ford, the owner, was a bodybuilder back in like the 90s or 80s or whenever. I'm not even sure how old he is. But like they have a wall of like all these competitions that people have won bodybuilding. It's also a boxing gym. And like all these people that have won belts and stuff, like there's pictures of them with the belts on the wall. It's like an old brick building with like old beat up dumbbells and like old bench racks and stuff. And the vibes there are just immaculate. Like every time I walk in there, I just want to start throwing weight around. And like
That's
it's
fucking
laid
dope.
back. Like if I want to take my shirt off and pose in the mirror, like do some bodybuilding poses and stuff, nobody's gonna tell me not to. If I want to do deadlift and slam the weight on the ground after I'm done, I can do that. It's a real gym. Like it's a real gym environment. And I like that. A lot of these commercial gyms are like, oh, everybody has to feel comfortable. Ford's is like, fuck that. If you don't like the pressure, don't be here.
Fair enough. I can dig that.
But
So,
that's a whole lifestyle. That takes up five nights in my week. I'm at the gym for anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I'm doing meal prep, and I got to stay on top of my supplements and make sure I'm sleeping at least 6 to 8 hours a night, and like all this stuff. Like my life nowadays revolves around my sobriety, working out, and my job. Like those are the three things I got. And then like because of my sobriety, I have the ability to work out. Because of my sobriety, I have the ability to have my job. Because of my sobriety, I'm able to hop on and play video games with y'all and be a part of this community and show up as a leader in this community. Without
oh,
that, I wouldn't have anything. And without my higher
so let's
power,
talk.
I would really have nothing.
Fair enough. So let's talk about that. What led you to the 508?
Well, so I was pretty big into video games in high school, like uh from like World at War to Black Ops 2, that was like my prime gaming lifetime. And like I got into Battlefield 3. I never really got into competitive play. Like that was never really me. I was more so like a weekend warrior because at my mom's house we didn't have Wi-Fi my whole life because we were poor as fuck. And like my dad was also poor as fuck, but he had Wi-Fi. So when I'd go over there, I'd bring my PS3 with me and I'd hook it up and I'd get on the game with my homies and stay up till 3 in the morning, playing Black Ops 2 or whatever. Um, but throughout the week, I couldn't really do it. Um, then I don't know. When I started smoking weed and partying and stuff, I just kind of lost interest in it. And then it was a few years ago, like I noticed, like anytime I'm just bored or whatever, like I'll just go to the store and spend money, or I'll just go out to eat. I'll just go do all this shit that costs a bunch of money. And I'm like, dude, I need to fucking tighten up. So if I buy a PS5, that gives me plenty of reason to stay in the house. So I bought my PS5, bought Call of Duty, bought Battlefield 42, which in my opinion is a garbage ass game, and bought GTA 5. And got into Call of Duty quite a bit, and then I just got burnt out on it. You know, it's such a sweaty game. Like
It is pretty sweaty.
it's so toxic too. Like
I
I
play for
don't
the
know.
toxicity, but I do like to win money on it.
Yeah, I just got tired of it. And like I was on TikTok and like I seen all these videos of like this Hell Let Loose game of like people getting cut in half by shotguns and like, you know, you're crawling through a trench and then a grenade blows up and then all your buddies in front of you that you were just talking to are in bits on the ground and like all this
Right?
like realistic war like shit. And I'm like, that looks badass. I want to get that.
Mhm.
So I bought it and I hop on and I spend the first 15 minutes because there wasn't a single garrison up. I spend the first 15 minutes running a point because we were on like the second to last point. So I'm running all the way there. I get up there after 15 minutes, get shot, dead. One shot, I'm dead. I'm like, this is some bullshit, bro.
Welcome
So I
to the
spawn
fucking
back.
show.
I played like 2 rounds. I'm like, fuck this. This game sucks. And I deleted it. And I started getting into some
Oh
other
shit.
shit. You know, I played through Hogwarts Legacy. I ended up getting what was it? The first the first God of War, like the Vikings God of War, like the 2019 one. I played through that and you know, was still playing Call of Duty with my friends and then got burnt out on all that again and I'm like, you know, maybe I should give Hell Let Loose a second chance. So I started playing and you know, I started playing skirmish mode because I'm like, oh, this is more like, you know, close quarters team deathmatch. I got into it and then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go back and try warfare and offensive. I started getting really into it, and then I'm like, you know, noticing like, dude, nobody's putting spawns up, nobody's doing this, like nobody's taking the time to actually learn how to play this game and win.
Fuck no, they
And
didn't.
like this was back in the day, bro. Like anybody who had a mic, this is like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. If you had a mic, I was sending you a friend request like right now. Like if you talk to me in my unit, I want you on my friends list so I can play with you because you actually fucking talk. Um,
Yeah,
so like I'd just start up squads and I'd be squad leading, I'd be putting down OPs, putting down Garys, winning games. And then I met a former 508 member, Revivalist, still a super good friend of mine. He's a 9PC now. He's a tanker. I met him. He was playing medic. We were on Hurtgen Forest. You know, we'd play like a few times a week, and then he just dropped off the face of the earth. You know, I'm still running, doing whatever I want. And then like 2 months later, you know, I'd send him an invite every time I was online, and he just wouldn't accept it. And uh, eventually, he finally hopped back in. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you been?" I'm like, "Oh, good. How about you?" He's like, "Good, dude." He's like, "I recently joined this clan." And I'm like, what's all that about? He's telling me, he's like, so it's this group of guys. He's like, we play competitively. We also play casually. But you know, we'll just hop in a server. Everybody has mics. We play with actual strategy. You know, we do trainings to get better at stuff and yada yada. I'm like the meme of the guy slamming the credit card on the table, like sign me up, bro.
yeah,
I'm like,
give it.
get
Yeah,
me in
yeah.
there right now. So he sent me the invite and the rest is history, dude. I mean, I joined at a pretty turbulent time in the 508, and I'm like, well, I'm new here. You know, I don't really know any of these people enough to like feel any type of way. That was when all the SOB stuff happened. Um, so that all went down, and then a bunch of people left. And like when I'm doing my AT with Chaos, he's like, yeah, Griozny, he's a good squad leader. Briz is a killer. Jin's good. Ptolemy's good. Whatever. And then like I'm checking the goodbye list like a week after, and all these guys are just leaving, and I'm like, fuck. Well, there goes the neighborhood. Oh well, whatever. I'll stick around. And you know, just started showing up to events, getting acquainted with the guys. And yeah, kind of found a home within the 508.
Kind of found your place.
Yeah, like the best part is like, you know, I'm not really big on like going out in public and like hanging out with people in person. Like if you want to come over and invite me over and kick it, you know, play cards, you know, do whatever, like go fishing, that's fine. But like, you know, I don't like going out in group settings. I don't like kicking it with people like that in real life. And like
Right.
508, I got what, 200 homies that I can just hop online at any time of day
250, I think.
and just hang out with online. I don't gotta leave my house. I don't gotta spend $1, and I can do it until whatever time at night. There's no curfew. You know, people don't get tired of you being at their house and they're like, oh, you got to leave. Like, or I don't get tired of them and have to kick them out. Like, if I don't feel like doing it anymore, I just hop off. They don't feel like doing it anymore, they just hop off. Like, dude, it's awesome. You know, I spend most of my social hours with the 508. I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. It's a great group of guys,
Yeah,
and
I
this
agree.
community's gotten me through some pretty difficult shit that I've gone through in my life over the past year.
Well,
But
that's good.
yeah, I mean, really, my like route to leadership was like all the SOB stuff happened. You know, everybody had their opinion on it. Like most of the guys that felt one way left, and a lot of the guys that felt another way stayed. And then there were your mediators. You know, like, oh, don't start shit with them. And these guys were like, nah, fuck them, and like starting shit with
Mm,
them. And so then there
mm,
was like
mm,
little
mm.
tension with that, and I'm like, bro, I just got here. I don't know what's going on. And then you know, I got to know a lot of the people really well. Started recruiting people, and then some other bullshit happened where some guys left for 7 Cav and like they ended up taking a lot of really good players with them, and like the clan was in shambles. Well, it wasn't in shambles, but like we were in a rough spot. And I'm like, no, I can't let this place die. So I had just made corporal before that happened. I was talking to Christmas. I'm like, hey dude, like can I start running events? Can I like start doing shit to like get people more involved in this? And like I started doing a weekly post in Charlie, like happy Wednesday, Charlie. Like what's your guys's like where are you guys from, and what are some of your guys' hobbies outside of the game? Or like what's up, Charlie? What's you guys' top 5 favorite bands? You know, stuff like that. And you know, Charlie was pretty active, so most of the guys would respond. And then I ended up breaking my thumb and rupturing a tendon, so I was out of commission for Hell Let Loose for like 3 weeks, and I was off of work for like a month. And I ended up, you know, like right when I became corporal, I filled out the leadership interest form. And then like after I came back from that LOA, Plem was like, "Hey, you want to be an NCO?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, bro, let's run it." And he's like, "Okay, but you're gonna have to go to Easy Squad." And Blue was still corporal at Easy Squad, or he was still staff sergeant at Easy Squad. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Send me over there wherever I can be helpful. It's like over to Easy Squad, and it's a fucking ghost town over there. Nobody's talking. Nobody's doing anything. So it was just me and Blue having conversations in there for a while. You know, Blue's, you know, in the process of getting his business up and running and, you know, dealing with his family and stuff and, you know, having a real life outside video games. And yeah, I don't got shit going on. I'm just going to work, going to the gym, and coming home and hopping on with the boys. So, you know, I'm active. I'm messaging Easy Chat all the time. And me and Blue were talking one night, and he's like, hey, uh, or no, we were just having a conversation, and he's like, you know, maybe you'd be a better squad leader than I would. And I'm like, you know, all jokes aside, if that's something that you're serious about, I'm willing to do it. I'm like, but I don't want to talk you out of it if you don't actually want to. Some weeks went by, and he messaged me one day. He's like, I think it's time. And I'm like, time for what? He's like, time for me to step down. So me, him, and Plem got in a call and decided that I was going to take over Easy Squad. And then after I took over Easy Squad, you know, I started really doing legwork. And I'm like, dude, these guys got to start talking in here. Like, we can't all be homies and be close friends if like we don't ever talk to each other, or we don't know each other, or we don't play together. So, you know, I'm sending out these like get to know you questions, you know, scheduling all these events and stuff. And I'd get, you know, some guys here and there. And then Gold Coin became an NCO and Harmless became an NCO, and they both went into Easy Squad. And that was when stuff, you know, things were picking up when they got there. But once they got there, that was like that final puzzle piece that we were missing. After that, Easy Squad was jumping all the time. And now that we got all these 4AD guys with us, dude, I go 2 hours without checking my phone at work. There's like 5 missed notifications from Easy Squad all the time. It's awesome. I'd love to see it. But I ended up stepping down
It's,
because Gold and Harmless are they're both awesome NCOs. They're both awesome guys. But you know, they're both online all the time. They're both in Discord just as much as I am. I'm not always super active in game depending on how work's going. So I decided to step down because I figured, it would be best for me to step down and give the higher leadership role to someone who's around a lot more to do it. So I stepped down, Gold took it. I'm still an NCO, still loving it, still help out where and when I can. But they're both solid NCOs, and Easy's the best it's ever been since I've been in the 508.
Yeah, the whole group's starting to come full circle, it seems.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. I love to see it. And the Dog Squad came back a few months ago. That was fucking awesome to see. I wasn't around to meet them when they were all here originally, but like they were like a thing of legend when I first joined. Like I'd hear people talking about Dog Squad as if like that was the glory days. Like, yeah, back
That's
when
funny.
so and so was here from Dog Squad, man, I missed them guys. And then like one day Clem made an announcement and just like boom, 50, 60, 70, I don't remember how many, but a shitload of people just started jumping back into the server. It was like a
It was
family
fucking stupid.
reunion.
It was fucking stupid for them to leave anyway, bro. Like from like because I was there through the whole thing. Like from when they announced that they were leaving, from the whole fucking shebang. Like I was there day one of that shit, and I was like, that's fucking stupid. Like you could easily have transitioned and been an EU segment of the 508 and done your own thing, been like a sister squad. But then to just leave and take all those people, that was fucking retarded. That literally, and sorry for my language for saying that shit, but that was literally one of like that was one of the big. I was like, yo, what the fuck? And then that's what led to the SOB shit, and then that was a whole domino fucking thing, bro. That
Yeah.
shit to this day pisses me the fuck off. Like
And I
that was one
showed
of the
up.
dumbest fucking things.
I showed up to the rubble. I showed up and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Wait, what the fuck? What is going on?
Yeah,
Like, it's like you walk into a family reunion right before an argument starts. Like, I walk in there,
I'm
I'm
glad
like, yeah,
everyone's
this
back.
is cool. Everybody's here. I'm getting to know people. And then everybody just starts dropping from the server and shit. And I'm like, bro, what the hell is
Yeah,
going on? But,
yeah. Well, everyone who comes back,
it all worked out in the end. It's a great community. The community is really why I stick around. I mean, I could go leave and go join a different clan and possibly get a comp roster spot and like win all these comp games. That does not matter to me. Like at the end of the day, when I get off of work and hop on, I'm not hopping on to kick ass in casual games and dominate comp tournaments. Like I'm on to be around good people that I fuck with, and like the 508 is that
yeah, of
exactly.
course.
Like there's not a group of guys that I would trade the 508 for.
Yeah, I agree, buddy. That's all I got for you for real. If there's anything else you'd like to talk about, we most certainly can. Or if you got anything else you want to say,
Uh There were a few more bullet points that I had about stuff to talk about. Let me bring them up quick. Oh yeah. So like along with like the sobriety and the gym, starting my own company, like all these self-improvement things, like over these past like 4 or 5 months, I've really dove headfirst into self improvement, and that plays a big part in why I'm not quite as active in the clan as I once was. Is because when I was super active, I was on all the time. I was running events once or twice a week. That was because I was avoiding my real life because there were parts of me that I didn't want to face. My life before I got sober. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. Like when we talked in our last podcast, like I had to learn how to fight when I was young because I was the only white kid in my neighborhood, bro. I was like one of 5 white kids and I get picked on all the time. And like I got into some bad shit that like in hindsight I had no business being involved in, but like there was a lot of violence in my life. Like I've lost a lot of friends to gun violence, lost a lot of friends to addiction. I've seen a lot of shit. And
yeah,
I have PTSD from that. I've been in a lot of situations that will fuck you up like firsthand. And, I got that PTSD stuff. I got the fucking addiction part of me that's like forever developing in my subconscious. Like every time I think I'm getting ahead of it and I relax and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to go to a meeting this week. I don't need to pray this morning. those are the days that I get off of work and I'm like, bro, a beer sounds so fucking good right now. Knowing that I can't do that. Like, I've ran that experiment too many times to even fucking try. Every time I end up getting fucked up, I either go to jail, I almost die, or some crazy shit happens. And like, we can do a whole separate podcast about some. I got a lot of fucked up stories, a lot of funny stories, but like, dude, shit was wild. And like, for a while I was like focusing on fixing that. Like, I wasn't really really digging deep into what was wrong with me, but like, I was handling it to the point where I was content. And then, when I started throwing myself into the clan like full force, like that was really me just distracting myself as much as I could from my real life and my problems. And I talked to Plum about this about a month ago, about how after our comp season, I'm probably going to be stepping down for a little while to really do some self improvement, work on my relationship with my girlfriend, work on myself. Um, but these past few months, I had a few moments over the winter where like, shit just got out of hand and it was like all on my accord. Like, it was nothing anybody did to me. It was like I'd just do stupid shit. I'd freak out on people or whatever, and then I'd be in a situation that I didn't want to be in. So like after that, I'm like, dude, enough's enough. Like, you've come this far and now you're regressing. Why are you doing that? You've come this far. You need to keep going forward. So I really dove into this self improvement shit. I started doing counseling probably 2 months ago. No, it was probably a month ago actually. But like, I'm meeting with a counselor once a week, and like they recommended I do this DBT group, which DBT is like a big mindfulness thing. I've been like really, really diving into like the meditation and like mindfulness of like, um, like, let's say I'm in a situation that's stressful or whatever, and I can overreact and blow it up, but instead, I take a deep breath and I like meditate in my head, like while I'm doing whatever I'm doing, but like I just like focus on where I am and what's going on right now, not how I feel, not any of that. Like, what is genuinely happening right now that I need to freak out about? What is genuinely happening that I need to make a scene about? Um, and like not only that, but like, discipline is a big thing. Like the gym is one form of discipline, being sober is one form of discipline, but like where's that financial discipline? Where's that mental discipline? The mental discipline big time about like, I'm thinking super negatively right now. I'm being a Debbie Downer about everything in my head. I'm shit talking myself all the time. Like, how do I fix that? So, I started, it was actually when I did the podcast with you, I'm like, I should start looking into some more podcasts about self help. I got 7 books on like discipline, on fucking, fixing the way you think and stuff like that. And I haven't touched any of them. So, these past few months, I started reading books again. Like, that's my first order of business when I get home from work and from the gym is I'll read a chapter out of whatever book I'm reading right now. And right now, it's not really a book about self-help, but more so just like understanding the world around you and like what role you play in it. It's called The Big Picture on the Origins of Life, Meaning, and the Universe Itself. And like it breaks down the universe and existence and like our ways of thinking on a super elementary level to like then you can understand why your brain goes the way it does in certain things. Like, why is it that I get frustrated over this or I feel like I'm not important in this avenue? And reading's a really powerful tool. Like, if you really want to learn something, you really want to master something, my biggest piece of advice is buy a book on it and read it. Fuck, buy 2, 3, 4 books on it and read them. That's been like a big tool of mine. And like, I don't even really listen to music in the car anymore. I'll throw on a podcast about like self discipline or like, self talk or like stuff like that. And like, it's really evolved into another, not so much something I'm passionate about, but it's evolved into like another form of like what my lifestyle is. Of like, I go to the gym for self improvement. I make sure that I'm eating right to meet my goals in the gym. I make sure that, when I'm sober, or like I'm sober for this reason and I'm helping these people and this and that. And like, but like, what? the self-discipline thing is like that final piece of like, okay, I'm doing all this, I'm helping people, I'm reaching these goals in the gym, all this stuff. But I need
Yes.
to fix my mental aspect to everything because, going to the gym's easy for me because it's fun. But what's not fun is, fixing the way I talk to myself in my head, fixing the way I view myself, fixing my relationship with money, stuff like that. Um, so, listening to these podcasts, reading these books is one thing, but then, actually putting an action plan into it. Like I wrote up a budget for myself for the first time in my adult life. And like since then, I've been able to save a shitload of money for the first time in my life. Like I don't have to worry about money. The only reason I worry about money is because I might have to dive into my savings, and I don't want to do that. Like it's never, oh, I don't have it. It's I have it, but I don't want to spend it. And
Yeah,
like
that's how it should be, though.
that's a that's an ever evolving thing. Like, you're never going to nail any of that stuff down perfectly, but like my whole life has been chaos. I've never had any structure in my life. I've never really had any discipline, and so like that's something that I've become obsessed with is like making a routine. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I eat my breakfast. I pray. I do half an hour of fasted cardio, and then I'll read a little bit, and then I go to work. I get to work half an hour early, and then when I'm chilling in my car, drinking my coffee, that's when I can scroll on my phone and do whatever. And then, after work, go to the gym, come home, whatever I need to take care of, that gets taken care of before I turn my PS5 on. That gets taken care of before I lay down and throw on a movie. And then for dinner, I'm not door dashing something. I'm not whatever. I have all this shit pre-cooked. I do it every Sunday. I'm cooking all these meals, so I'm making sure I'm staying on track in my diet and stuff like that. And like, it all sounds really good on paper, but like actually trying to get myself to follow all this stuff that I have set up for myself is like where I realize like I'm lacking mental discipline. And like a big part of it is like I often tell myself like, bro, you're not going to do that. You're not actually going to pull that off. So like I just get in the headspace like why even try? It's like fixing those thinking errors, fixing those I'm not good enough. I'm not going to do that because what's the point? I don't even have it in me to do that. Like fixing that stuff is what's going to take me to the next level in my life. I've been okay with being mediocre for the past 2 years of my life since I've gotten sober. I don't want to be mediocre for my whole life. I want to start my own business. I want to be financially successful. I want to set up, you know, generational wealth for my future kids, for my family. Like I don't want, if I have kids, I don't want them to grow up the way I did. Not that the way I was raised was terrible, but I don't want them to have to worry about money. I don't want them to, become an adult and their car breaks down and they come to me, oh, hey, I really need help. I have no money. Sorry, I don't got any money either. Like I want to be
Yeah.
able to look out for the people that matter to me. I want to be able to look out for myself first and foremost because when I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not able to be the best boyfriend I can be. I'm not able to be the best employee I can be, the best whatever, you know. So like fixing what's wrong with me takes precedence over everything else right now. And like counseling has opened up a completely like different section of my life that like I haven't even paid any attention to in a long time. Like there's a lot of fucked up stuff going on in there that I've just been ignoring. And my counselor, like we're just getting to the point where like she knows me well enough that like she'll bring this stuff up like, hey, you said this, like I think that has to do with this. And I'm like, you know what, fuck you, you're right. I didn't want to deal with that, but now that you said that I have to. And like, it's the second set of eyes on the situation. And like, actually giving my counselor the full picture and like exactly what's going on in my head allows that door to be open for them to see like what's really going on. You know, all this stuff, like I have a financial advisor, I have a counselor, I have a sponsor. All they can do is arm me with the facts about myself and what I'm doing and what I'm capable of. It's all up to me for the rest.
Exactly.
And like my perfect version of myself that I picture is someone that is consistent as fuck. I do this on this day of the week, every fucking week. Like
Yeah.
almost like a not quite like a robot, but pretty robotic because my whole life has been chaos. I just want something to be set in stone, and like I'll set these things for myself and then I don't follow them and then I get trapped in this cycle of beating myself up. So like lately it's just been setting these routines, following them no matter what, no matter how bad I don't feel like it. Even if I have to half ass it to get it done, I'm going to half ass it and get it done. And,
Fair enough.
not only has that helped me focus more on my sobriety and stuff like that, but it's also led me to, be a much more pleasant person to be around. I'm able to be much more present in my relationship with my girlfriend. I'm able to be a better sponsor. I'm able to be a better roommate. I'm able to be a better, NCO in the 508, stuff like that. And like I'm
Right.
just now over these past few weeks, like starting to see the rewards from this. And like one thing that I'm not going to do this time that I've done every other time, I've kind of dove down one of these rabbit holes is like every other time I'm like, oh, it's working. I can let up and stop doing it. Fuck that. Every time I do that where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm good, I can let up a little bit, I just
Yeah.
stop doing it completely and everything goes right back down the shitters. So like I see this progress. I see what I'm doing. I'm getting leaner. I'm putting on muscle mass still.
Yeah.
I'm my me and
You got
my
to stick with it, man.
girlfriend don't argue anymore. My sponsees are, they come to me with more questions and I'm able to give them better advice. I'm able to pay my bills and stuff. I want more of that. So I'm putting in more work to continue to better these parts of my life that needed attention that I was not giving any of my effort to for a long time.
Well, that's awesome, bro. I'm glad that you were at least able to be at least you were able to be self-aware enough to do it.
Yeah. I feel like I talked myself in circles for the past 20 minutes.
You definitely did. Yeah. I mean, I was letting you do your thing, but you, you definitely did. But it's good though. I mean, I'm glad that people, at least people know. And what was some of your other bulletins, Bella?
Uh, let's see here. I think we touched on all of them already. Yeah, we can edit
I
out
say I
the.
tried my best at the beginning to touch most of the construction ones and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, we can edit out the me talking in circles and stuff. But
Dude, you know I don't edit it, brother. It's going as soon as we're done, it's getting up.
fuck it, send it.
Yeah, it's not bad, bro. I just think that it just shows that you're proud about it, brother. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Like talking to yourself in circles doesn't necessarily mean that you were boring about it. Like you're just reaffirming or reassuring, reassuring the positive spin that it had on your life.
Yeah,
And if, like I said, if people want to hate on it, fuck 'em. People can hate, man. I respect it. I'm happy for you, and that's what this place is for. It's a platform for you to speak your mind and how you're feeling, bro. So,
hell
as
yeah,
far as I'm
dude.
concerned, you did exactly what it's for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I look forward to doing our episode with Lazarus and like really diving into the specifics of my past and like what sobriety has brought into my life and like how my higher power and how my sobriety plays a role in my daily life and getting a better picture of what his version of that looks like for him because we've talked about it quite a bit but like we haven't really dove into it yet, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm excited for the spirituality and religion conversation. That's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude.
Um, that's definitely gonna have to be like a pieced out thing. We're gonna have to do like part one, part two, part three, because
Oh
that's gonna
yeah,
be a schedule killer.
that's a rabbit hole too.
Yeah, yeah, we can go forever on that, and I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. We just got to make sure our schedules line up, and it will get up.
Right on. Well, we're doing a lot better on time for this one than we were in the last one.
That's because you told me you were trying to stick to a time, so I was like, I tried to make sure. I wish I would have got your bulletins prior to the show. That way, I could have tried to keep it on track too. But I think we did great. I think this is a good episode. I think the boys are gonna like it. I think people that are oh, real quick, why don't you go ahead and tell people who are listening if they are ever in need of, a counselor, who to look to, like what websites and shit is there out there?
Honestly, like addiction's a tricky topic to cover. If you're out there, you're struggling with addiction, you don't really know where to go. It sounds corny as fuck. It's gonna be corny as fuck your first few times. But go to an AA meeting, get a big book, and read the first 164 pages and find a sponsor and work with them. Maybe your first meeting isn't for you. Try a few different ones. My first meeting sucked. Like it was bad. Like I showed, yeah, here's something we can talk
Very.
about for a little while longer. My first meeting I ever went to, like I tried everything to stay out of AA. Like if I could have gotten sober and gotten my life on track without going to AA, I never would have even walked in the door. Like I was doing drug counseling, playing the rehab game, in and out of rehab, in and out of jail, in and out of rehab. And then I did IOP. IOP is intensive outpatient therapy. For those of you that don't know, it's like 3 days a week for a few hours a session, and it's like group therapy for addiction. And like you talk about like your clean time and like dealing with triggers and stuff like that. Like I did all of that. None of that fucking worked. And then they're like, maybe you should go to AA. And some guy in my IOP is like, yeah, we should check out this meeting. And we go to it, and I walk in. And if you've never been to an AA meeting, I'm telling you, this is exactly what you would picture AA to be, was my first meeting. It's in a church basement with some metal fold out chairs, a pot of shitty coffee, and a bunch of big books around the table. And all the people around the circle were just old fuckers in sweater vests, just looking miserable, and like they all hated their life, and like they're all sharing and shit. And I'm like, bro, fuck this. Like I was a fucking thug back then. So I'm like, I don't belong around all these old people. They don't even probably want me around, yada yada yada. Like they're all looking at me the whole time, and I'm like, dude, fuck this. Like this is not for me. And then after the meeting, someone came up to me, and this was my first little enlightenment moment that kind of led me to sobriety. Was there was this one guy, never met him before, not a day in my life. And he comes up to me and he goes, hey, what's your name? I go, I'm James, what's yours? He's like, oh, my name's Brian. And he's like, so what was your drug of choice? And I'm like, oh, opiates. He's like, oh, me too. And he's like, you go to any other meetings? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, well, here's a meeting list. Here, take my phone number down. If you're ever struggling with anything, like I know you're new, if you're struggling with anything, call me. I'll help talk you through it. If you want to go to a meeting, call me. I'll take you. I'll go with you. I'll do whatever. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I leave, and I didn't really give it much thought. And then I'm in my car on the way home, and I'm like, holy shit, that guy that I've never met before a day in my life cares about me way more than all my so called friends do. And that
You
was
think
like
that
a
was
big,
a real eye opener for you?
yeah. I'm like, dude, these people in these weird meetings with their fucking weird ass book and this fucking cult, they care about me more than my friends that I've been staying with, that have been making sure I eat at night. Like all these people that were so called looking out for me were just keeping me down. And these random people, I'd show up to these meetings when I first started going. I didn't know anybody, nobody knew me. And they'd actually take the time to sit down. Hey, what's really going on? Hey, how can I actually help you? You want to go to a meeting tomorrow? I'll pick you up. What time you want to go? And like, that was the first time in my life, like since like high school, that like I met people that genuinely just wanted the best for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're struggling, go check out AA. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's gonna suck, but it gets a lot better. I swear by the 12 steps. That shit saved my life. It sounds corny as fuck, but like, dude, you can implement the 12 steps in your life. If you're not an addict, and your life would be better. It's a
Yeah.
it's a blueprint for living. It's not a blueprint for how to quit drinking. AA doesn't teach you how to quit drinking. It teaches you how to fix you so you don't even want to drink.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
That being
I want to
said,
save a lot
let's
of that for the Lazarus episode, though. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all I got.
I was gonna say, don't get too deep because I need the material for another one.
Oh yeah, we'll get to it.
All right, big dog. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come back and redo it. You know, it was my fault on the first fuck up.
Yeah, no problem, dude. I feel like this is a better run anyway.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'll see you around, man. We'll get with Lazarus now, actually, because I see his ass is active in the Discord. So I'm gonna get with him now and see when we can get that linked up. And yeah, I'll see you around, man.
Right on.